Queen and I are delighted to be hosting you tonight in this particular room. Because in 1899, my great-grandmother, Queen Wilhelmina, made this Oranjezaal available for the first Hague Peace Conference. Representatives of 26 countries attended, including the initiator of the conference, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. The participants in those days were filled with the sense that peace would be everlasting. But behind the scenes, the first signs were already emerging of the arms race that would ultimately lead to the First World War. Peace, freedom, democracy, and the rule of law are our highest ideals. And yet history has taught us how fragile these values are if they're not protected. Where would we be without strong organizations that stand up for the defense of international stability, peace, and freedom? Where would we be without NATO's firm resolve? Mr. President, it means so much to us to welcome you in our home tonight. We cherish the bonds of friendship that will always unite our nations. Our friends and partners from the Indo-Pacific region are welcome in our circle as guests. And Ukraine, which for years has been embroiled in a daily struggle, making great sacrifices to defend its freedoms and ours, is welcome too. The people of Ukraine, with whom we feel such close ties, deserve our continuing support. It's impressive to see how we, as NATO countries, have succeeded in forming a shield behind which peace and freedom can flourish. A shield that's providing more and more people with protection. It's rightly argued that we need to make sufficient investments in our security and that there must be a balance in the financial contributions made by the members of the alliance. There can be no solidarity unless everyone shoulders their own responsibility. Perhaps, beside Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, there needs to be more focus on Article 3, the provision that says that, and I quote, "Parties, separately and jointly, will maintain and develop their individual and collective capacity to resist armed attack." These subjects are bound to come up in your discussions tomorrow. I know that you will address them with wisdom, and I have every confidence that the outcome will be a NATO that is stronger than ever. May future historians recognize the 2025 summit as a milestone. The summit where we made groundbreaking decisions and where we took responsibility together for the preservation of peace, freedom, and the rule of law. Let us stay focused on what for 76 years has been the key to NATO's success: our unshakable unity and our mutual confidence that we can always count on one another.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
24/7 TV programming on www.stmartinmediacenter.com, SXM Daily News, PBS NewsHour, Now You Know, Com programs, documentary, entertainment, sports events, Saturday children's hours, religion programs, and movies. Click on SXM TV broadcast to see your favorite programs.
to Trinidad to participate in the 60th plenary of the CFATF, which is the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. This is where our country's progress in combating money laundering, terrorism financing, and related financial crimes was assessed. The CFATF led St. Martin through a major evaluation. It was our current fourth round evaluation, which is a rigorous assessment of how well our country detects, prevents, and combats financial crimes and terrorism financing. This evaluation covered the period of 2019 to 2023 and measured both our technical compliance and our effectiveness, because it's not just about having the legislation in place, it's also about having the tools to actually be able to act on different things. You know, can we actually detect signals? And when we do detect them, do we have the proper mechanisms in place to be able to handle that? The evaluation showed improvement in several areas, but it also made clear that we still have a lot of work ahead of us. Our next report is therefore due in May 2026, so we will have to go back to the plenary once more. But in the meantime, we will be rolling out targeted actions to strengthen supervisory bodies, align strategies within the kingdom and our regional partners, and of course, advance our national risk-based action plan. One thing that I made clear at the plenary in Trinidad was that St. Martin was not there to make excuses. We were there to reflect, we were there to improve, and we're there to act. Financial crime is not just a technical issue, it's about trust, safety, and opportunity for our people. So in the coming weeks, months, and of course, up until the next plenary, you know, we will be working actively on this. It was very helpful for me to be there in person because there was so much you learn within that week and seeing how other countries are addressing these issues, and also have the opportunity to speak to that assessment team to really talk about the technicalities to see where St. Martin can improve and how we can really strengthen this system. And I know to a lot of folks it might seem sometimes, and this is one of the things where as a Ministry of Justice we operate on a level of international compliance as well and international obligations, because the way that we score in these tests affect the way that we're able to bank, affect the way, you know, whether or not we can take money out of the ATM. So while it may seem as something kind of high level, it's very important to the day-to-day life of people here in St. Martin, and it's why it's important for me as Minister of Justice to attend and also to ensure that we remain compliant and that we remain effective more than anything else. Then from June 10th to 12th, I traveled to Strasbourg. The days prior to Strasbourg, of course, I was in the Netherlands, and I had combined that with work visits. You know, I got the opportunity to speak with on a high level there about different types of programs. There were some press releases that went out to that effect. But I wanted to maybe just spend a little more time now talking about the trip to Strasbourg. At that trip, I addressed the 46 member states at the Committee of Ministers for the Council of Europe. That is a section of actually the European Court of Human Rights. So as many people may remember, there was in 2018 a judgment that was rendered against the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the Corallo case, and that was an important human rights matter concerning, of course, the detention conditions here in St. Martin. As a result of that, of course, the Kingdom then has to give follow-up to the recommendations made by the European Court of Human Rights. As a result of that, we've been in what we call an enhanced follow-up procedure. And as part of that enhanced follow-up, we're actually obligated to every 3 to 6 months actually provide updates to the Council of Europe in writing. And then every so often, the case is then heard and discussed with the Committee of Ministers with all 46 member states. This was actually the first time that the Minister of Justice of St. Martin, during the course of this court case, attended in person. Previously, the ministers had attended virtually. I did recognize that I said if I had $1 for every time someone at the Council of Europe told me how grateful they were that a minister was there in person, that I could have had a lot of money for our justice budget and maybe hired some more police officers or fixed the detention conditions at an even more rapid pace. But that being said, over there, I reaffirmed our commitment to compliance, not just in word, but in action. I shared updates on the new prison project, our collaboration with the UN, both UNOPS and UNODC, and the restoration of key programs. Of course, a big part of the discussion centered around the fire that had the arson that was committed in the prison about a month ago, just over a month ago. And of course, what we were doing in that time to ensure that we were reestablishing normalcy as much as possible within the prison. More importantly, I also conveyed to the Committee of Ministers that our work is not just about ticking boxes. It's about restoring dignity and institutional trust in the prison itself. During the visit, I also held courtesy visits and in-depth meetings with different bodies of the Council of Europe to see how we can further work together. I met with the Council of Europe's Deputy Secretary General, the CPT, which is the Committee for the Prevention of Torture, the Directorate of Human Rights, the Department for the Execution of Judgments within the Council of Europe, the Vice President of the European Court of Human Rights, and several other executive branches of the Council of Europe. These exchanges, I think, opened many doors for further cooperation. And I also extend my appreciation to the Council of Europe for hosting me and to the Dutch ambassador and the delegates of the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs for their assistance to me during that trip. St. Martin will continue to uphold its responsibilities under the European Convention on Human Rights, not just out of obligation, but out of conviction, because we believe that this is something that's important.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
24/7 TV programming on www.stmartinmediacenter.com, SXM Daily News, PBS NewsHour, Now You Know, com programs, documentary, entertainment, sports events, Saturday children's hours, religion programs, and movies. Click on SXM TV broadcast to see your favorite programs.
Support staff. According to Article 57 of the Rules of Order, we now go over to voting on the draft national ordinance stipulating the budget of the country for the year 2025. National Ordinance Budget 2025. We will vote on Article 1 and its attachment. Article 2. Article 3, Article 4, Article 5, title, consideration, the draft in its entirety as modified by the Memorandum of Modification registered on the IS 1157 of this parliamentary year, dated June the 11th, and we don't have any approved amendments. So that's the draft in its entirety. Does any member request voting by roll call, hoofdelijke stemming? Hoofdelijke stemming has been requested. So before we begin voting, I ask if there are members who wish to motivate their vote to do so at this time. We have MP.
It was stated in the beginning, or many times actually, that this budget is the same as the one that in January, and all the new amendments have been incorporated. But that's exactly why I have the concerns. That's exactly why I would not be supporting the budget, because the minister herself said in her answers that ideally all the actual should have been implemented in the budget today. The minister also said in her answers to Parliament that Carnival, among others, should have been incorporated in the budget. Matter of fact, when we approved the budget in January, the minister said an amendment would be coming in May to incorporate Carnival among others, because it had to be in the budget. It is irresponsible of me as a member of Parliament to exclude Carnival and the other payments. It's irresponsible of me as a member of Parliament not to include the amendment for Soul Beach, right, because it was not budgeted. It's irresponsible of me to continue to vote and support, not even knowing when the amendment is coming, Madam Chair. So I will not be supporting this budget because I'll be continuing the irresponsible governing of the government. Thank you.
I want to be very, very clear that this is the absolute closest that I've gotten to approving a budget, because since December 2024, when we started the Central Committee meeting, I've had very simple questions throughout the entire process. And actually, since January, when we started to have issues with the amendments not being able to be ratified because of interpretation, I tried to argue every reason why we shouldn't have had an issue with those ratifications in support of the budget, in support of the government. And then we find ourselves again here today, 6 months later, trying to really go through a new budget with everything that everyone wanted from January to be there so that we can approve, which is also the reason why I did not support any amendments, because I felt like everything was already done from the beginning of the year. And in referencing back to December, I don't want anyone to think that I'm going to compromise on my findings and my questions, regardless of anyone or any coalition or anything, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that every question I've had since December 2024, when we started debating this budget, has been answered except one. And if we had more time, I would have accepted a nota van wijziging from the government for the one simple error that I asked about since December, was a complete list of rental properties. I have discussed this at length with the Minister of Finance so that she understood my position. But again, this goes back to me not compromising even for one minute thing. Because if I start to compromise on one minute thing, then for me, it's the worst thing that I could personally do when it comes to my interpretation of the budget. And because of the fact that I have had a very open conversation with both the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, and they understand my position very clearly, and it is really based on the incomplete listing of the...
Madam Chair, I will motivate the reason why I'm voting for this budget. For the mere reason that I sat across the table representing two ministries. The government, the current government, came in on the 26th of November, and the findings for the budget for the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of ECYS was done under my tenure. In collaboration with the Minister of Finance, I can say this budget from the both ministries that I represented, the statistics are basically the same. So I do understand that is copy-paste, and we had a situation why we are here today with the same budget for the second time. But I will affirm this government when there's the amendment 2025 budget coming, when there's 2026 budget coming, it will be a different story. Because then I had nothing to do with the budget that is to come. So I will be hypocritical today to say I'm going to be against a budget that I helped put together when I was Minister of Justice and Acting Minister of ECYS.
For the first time, I'm still in limbo with a budget. The budget had some negatives and some positives. Some negatives with the budget, for instance, within the Ministry of VSR. The Ministry of VSR, when I asked about specific line items and amounts not adding up, said it doesn't have significant effects. For instance, for public health, is the 400,000 plus for projects and activities included in the total for public health? Why is this line item missing? And the answer was not clear, even though the minister tried to respond. If you add the figures in the budget, we are asking to approve for the Department of Public Health. For instance, you get 636,900, and the total states 1,048,900. But if I add it up, it's a difference of 75,000. Those are some of the things that I never received clarity and answers for during this budget. And to say that it won't affect the budget, it don't sit right with me. Also for VROMI, where it pertains to the 2 million, the Minister of VROMI did state that yes, it should have been added. He'll be looking into it as it was an oversight. We are all human and it happens. And then the positives of the budget is we asked a lot of questions. And some of the ministers were very forthcoming with information, documents. And I got a clear understanding for the first time on the process of the budget, hence the reason I was able to dissect it a lot better.
We will now go over to the voting. And we will start with number 3.
MP Artwell Irian.
Against.
MP Veronica Janssen Webster.
4.
MP Viren Kotai.
4.
MP Dimar La Vega.
4.
MP Francisco La Cruz.
Against.
MP Lyndon Lewis.
4.
MP Franklin Myers.
4.
MP Omar Otley.
Against.
MP Rayon Peterson.
4.
MP Shamira Roseberg.
4.
MP Ludmila De Weaver.
Against.
MP Christopher Waver.
4.
MP Darrell York.
Against.
MP Egbert Duran.
Against.
Chair Lady Sarah Westcott Williams.
4. The results of this vote on the draft budget 2025 is 9 votes for, 6 against. This budget 2025 by this vote has been approved. According to Article 88, subsection 1 of the Constitution of St. Martin, Parliament shall notify the government that Parliament has approved this draft law in its public meeting. I want to thank the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, Minister of Justice, Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, and their respective support staff for their presence here and throughout the past days and for providing the necessary information. I want to thank the staff of Parliament, many of them still here with us tonight, and I want to thank in a very special way the members of Parliament for their contribution to these discussions on the budget and budget-related items.